I'm Sasha from 407apartments.com, and I'm this year's Education Committee Chair. Thank you so much for attending today's class.
This is 27-year-old Sasha Samsudean, a graduate from the University of Florida, who later became a social media manager well known for her bubbly and charismatic personality. A professional during the week who still enjoyed to party with her friends on the weekend. Over the course of this video's 43-minute running time, we are going to analyze the mysterious events that led up to the tragic murder of this young lady. While doing so, we are going to outline each step that she took throughout her final evening by walking you through the copious amounts of surveillance footage that nearly caught her each and every move on camera. We will also break down the multiple interrogations, polygraph tests, and subsequent legal aftermath that took place throughout and following this investigation. And as we've seen in another video on this channel, this case is also commonly referred to as a crime caught almost entirely on camera. On October 17th, 2015, Sasha and a small group of friends were having a night out in downtown Orlando. One of their first stops was at the Attic nightclub. Sasha's friend Anthony said Sasha was ready to leave just after midnight, at around 12:30 a.m. Instead of leaving with her, Anthony said that it was common for them to separate, go to other bars, and meet back up later. So that's what they did. Strangely, Anthony did not hear from Sasha again that night, but was still expecting to go out to breakfast with her the next morning. As the next morning approached, there was still no sign of Sasha. When her friends tried to contact her, there was no reply. Anthony and two of Sasha's other friends became increasingly concerned, so they headed on their way to Sasha's apartment to check up on her. Once they arrived at Sasha's building, known as the Uptown Apartments, they immediately spotted her car parked in her usual parking spot. In the back seat, they could see a present that they were aware she was planning to take to a baby shower later that day. They then went directly to her apartment, knocked on the door, and called out to her. There was no answer, so Anthony called the police.
Hi, I need to fill out a missing persons report. We went to her apartment to go check. She's there, and she's not.
And what is her first name?
Her first name is Sasha.
Officers quickly arrived at Sasha's apartment. They walked through the kitchen and living room, which appeared to be tidy and undisturbed. They then entered her bedroom. Sasha's arm and hair could then be seen poking out from underneath her bedding. When the officers lifted the blankets, they found Sasha deceased, with severe bruising to her neck and obvious signs of strangulation. An investigation immediately went underway. Investigators noted 6 strange observations while searching the apartment. The first was an incredibly strong odor resonating from the bedroom, similar to that of bleach and Pine Sol, a multi-purpose cleaner. Some discolored bedding near her body, which appeared to have been the result of reckless bleaching. And they found Sasha's toilet seat was left up. This was particularly strange, as Sasha lived alone and was not known to have any men in her apartment recently. On the toilet seat lid, investigators found a set of fingerprints. The fourth observation was found using luminol and a swab. Investigators located DNA from an unidentified man on Sasha's body. The fifth was a used condom wrapper lying on the floor behind the garbage can. And the sixth was a dirty shoe print left on her kitchen floor that was far too big to be from her own shoes. This is where things get interesting. Investigators began to scour all of the areas that Sasha had traveled through that evening, hoping to find surveillance footage that caught Sasha's movements. After speaking to the apartment complex security, they managed to acquire the footage from security cameras located on each floor of the apartment building. These cameras were facing the hallways, stairwells, and the exits. They also managed to acquire the security footage from several street cameras along Sasha's 10-block trip home along Orange Avenue in downtown Orlando. Investigators started by reviewing the footage from the Attic nightclub, where they could clearly see Sasha wearing her white pants and purple shirt walking home from the bar. Sasha could be seen walking alone and slightly stumbling. She is then seen running, but disappears after there was a glitch in the first tape. 6 seconds later, Sasha can be seen again, but now she is with 2 other women. At 1:46 a.m., Sasha can then be seen going into her apartment building. Another man, who turned out to be a concerned resident, asks her if she is okay. Sasha replies yes, and then continues on her way.
You okay?
Sasha can be seen again at 2:06 a.m. For some reason, she appears to be running up the stairs, followed by the building security guard, Stephen Duxbury. At 2:25 a.m., Sasha can be seen one more time. The security guard is still with her. The two appeared to be walking to and from the first floor of the garage. Less than a minute later, they return through the same doors and head back into the building. It is likely that Sasha made a mistake, leading Stephen and herself to the wrong floor of the garage, as less than 5 minutes later, the two can be seen walking into the garage on the third floor instead. They then re-enter the building together again. About 2.5 hours later, Stephen Duxbury appears to head back to work. These are the last moments that Sasha Samsudean was seen alive. After reviewing all of this footage, investigators made it a priority to speak to each of the parties witnessed alongside Sasha that evening. They first briefly questioned the security guard, Stephen Duxbury. Stephen said that he saw Sasha that night because she was trying to get into the building.
You came in contact with a female resident?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's talk about that. What time did that occur?
It happened approximately about 0200 in the morning.
Can you describe her?
Shorter young lady, looked at the time possibly Hispanic or Pacific Islander maybe, dark hair.
What was her physical condition?
She appeared to be very intoxicated.
Okay. And why do you say that?
She was stumbling. She, at some points, didn't even seem to hear anyone asking her questions or even talking to her. She was like hyper-focused on what she was trying to do. She, thought maybe she left her keys at her car, so she asked me if I would walk with her out to the parking garage so she could try and get the keys out of her car. So I walked with her and we went out and we didn't even go to any car because about maybe 5 steps out, she's like, wait, I think I remember the code now. And then I'm like, okay, so we go back in. I then bring her back to the thing. She starts trying to punch in codes again, still not working. At this point I'm like, I have to do, I gotta keep doing my job and gotta do another sweep. So I'm like, okay, you stay here and keep trying to do this. I'm going to go do another sweep, and if I come back and you're still not in your apartment, we're going to have to figure out how to deal with the situation.
According to Stephen, this is where they parted ways, and Sasha headed back to her door to attempt to gain entry herself. Something quite strange, though, is that after the second trip to the garage, which Stephen seems to gloss over, it almost appears as though Sasha had her keys in hand as they re-enter the building. Strange indeed. Anyways, investigators were unable to identify the two women that were seen walking with Sasha on Orange Avenue that night, so they released the surveillance alongside enhanced photographs and were quickly contacted by the two women. These two went on to state that they had only spoken with Sasha that night as they were trying to help her avoid some men that appeared to be creeping her out as she stumbled out of the bar by herself. They offered her a ride to her apartment and then stayed outside with her until she was allowed in by the neighbor. They were concerned that Sasha would not be able to get in, as Sasha had told them that she didn't have her key fob or her cell phone. Once Sasha was allowed in, the two left.
You guys know her? Or
No, we were downtown on Friday night, but as we were leaving, saw her walking by herself, and was very concerned, just because she seemed extremely intoxicated. And there was a car of men who had rolled down their window and started to talk to her. I walked up and kind of took her arm and said, like, do you know where you're going? And you could tell she didn't really know what was going on. And so at that moment got her to get into an Uber with us.
How certain are you that it's her? Pretty
100%.
Do you remember what she was wearing?
Yes. White jeans and a purple shirt.
Although this conversation did not provide investigators with any information about who the perpetrator could be, it did clear these two of any further suspicion. It also forced the investigators to think a little bit more outside the box, as we now have confirmation that Sasha was at a level of intoxication that made it very difficult for her to have any clear judgment. This made it more tedious to eliminate anybody as a potential suspect, as Sasha may have unknowingly welcomed somebody with bad intentions into her apartment while she wasn't thinking clearly. Investigators then spoke to Sasha's most recent ex-boyfriends. This is because statistics show that murder by strangulation is most commonly committed by an ex-partner or scorned lover, as it is usually regarded as a crime of passion. The first ex-boyfriend interrogated was a bartender by the name Taylor. Taylor stated that he and Sasha were no longer exclusive. However, they did have a relationship in the past and they still talked. He stated that he was at work until 9:30 p.m. that Friday night, and they did not meet up after his shift ended.
It's going to be a statement from Taylor Unsinger. He's a white male, date of birth. I'm Detective Mumford. I'll be taking the statement. Statement be taken here at the Atlanta Police Department. We're in CID room number 7. Also present is Detective Brian Ferreira. Case number is 2015-428-101. It's for homicide. Today's date is October 24th, 2015. And statement will begin at 8:44 a.m. Taylor, could you raise your right hand? Okay, Taylor. Prior to going on tape, I informed you that I'm investigating a homicide. Let me show you this picture. Do you know what this is?
Yep.
Okay, and who is this? How do you know?
We dated for a little over 2 years.
Okay. And you, boyfriend, girlfriend?
Yes.
You guys live together?
No.
Okay. Was there any talk of marriage?
Yes, we did talk about marriage a couple times. Yeah.
Okay. Was it an exclusive relationship?
Definitely exclusive.
Now, when's the last time you heard from?
I heard from her on Friday morning. We had a conversation Thursday evening, late, and then just finishing the conversation Friday morning on Facebook.
Okay. And what was the content of those conversations?
We were just talking about a podcast we listened to in California when we were driving up.
Okay. When was the last time you actually seen her?
I saw her October 1st. We went out for Lindsay Rodriguez's birthday for dinner.
And who is Lindsay?
Lindsay's a mutual friend. I used to work with her at the Vineyard, and she struck up a friendship with her and her husband, Bo.
Okay.
Stephen.
Was there any talk about trying to get back together?
We didn't really talk about it, but it was something that I always thought that we would,
Okay.
down the road.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you this. Were you at the apartment October 16th, 17th, which was either Friday night, Saturday morning, which was last week?
No.
Do you know where you were last Saturday?
Last Saturday,
Yes.
I was at work
Okay.
in the morning, or
Around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Say late Friday evening or early
I was
Saturday
home.
morning.
I was home. I got off of work Friday night at about 9:30. I had bartended because there were some bartenders that needed to take some time off, so I picked up a shift for them, and I went home, and I had my parents over. I had just got a couch delivered that day, so I was excited to go home and hang out, and I went to bed at about 1 o'clock that night.
Okay.
I had to work early, about 10 o'clock on Saturday, and I had to open and close the restaurant, so I wanted to make sure that
Okay.
I got rest.
Okay. Did you have any involvement in the murder?
No, sir.
Do you know who murdered?
No, sir.
Do you have any problem giving us a buccal swab of DNA?
I have no problem.
Okay. This statement will end at 8:54 a.m.
He let the investigators take a DNA sample, and he was quickly ruled out. The next man that they interrogated was an ex-boyfriend named Ben. Ben was considered a suspect because Sasha texted him at exactly 5:12 a.m., which was her last message sent. The message she sent him was only one word: Ben. Ben stated that he and Sasha briefly dated and were supposed to hang out that weekend, but it did not end up happening.
It's going to be a statement from Benjamin Robach. Today's date is October 20th, 2015. The case number is 2015-428-101. This statement will begin at 6:29 p.m. Ben, could you raise your right hand? Ben, let me show you this picture. Do you know who this is?
Yes, I do.
Who is that person? How do you know?
We went to high school together. We were boyfriend and girlfriend for a couple years back in college, and still friends and acquaintances up until she died, passed away.
What was your relationship prior to her death?
Yeah, I mean, we'd hang out every so often. You know, we'd meet up, downtown somewhere and hang out and grab a drink. She'd come over sometimes. You know, if I was having a tough day, she'd give me some advice, and we'd hang out and talk. And so we were close friends. She was there to support me when I needed it, and vice versa. So, yeah.
When was the last time you seen her?
I saw her Thursday night. We went out downtown.
Okay. Where did you guys go?
I want to say it was Sly Fox. It's our usual bar that we go to.
Was it just you two?
Yeah, we were there, and my friend Alan was there as well, one of my best friends. So a lot of us like to go out to that bar. And
Okay. What's the name of the bar?
Sly Fox.
That's downtown?
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you spoke to her?
I received a message from her at 5:12 a.m. on Saturday morning. That was are you talking about on the phone or via text message or anything?
On the phone or text message?
Yeah, text message. The last kind of back and forth we had was around 1 in the morning, but I got a message from her at 5:12 a.m. Just said my name, and then I responded about 16 minutes later, and I never heard back from her after that.
Okay. And that was Saturday morning?
Mm-hmm.
Were there a series of texts?
Yes.
Okay. And when did that start?
Well, it started, late Friday night, early Saturday morning, around, midnight, 1 o'clock hour, somewhere around there.
Who texts to first?
I want to say she texted me first.
So she texted you late Friday night?
I could pull them up if that'd make it easier.
Yes, please.
Let's see. So, yeah. I texted her at 12:44 a.m. saying hello. And she said I should come to meet her at Sidebar, which is one of her favorite bars over on, I think it's actually off Central and in Orange. She said to come to Sidebar now, and I said to come hang out over where I was. I was at a house with some friends, and then she said where. I gave her the address, and she said I'm at Sidebar. I said just come after. I'll pay for your Uber. Just come on over, let me know. And then she said Ben, and I said Sasha, you okay? And she said, yes, of course, and that was right around 1 o'clock. And I said, okay, we should come hang out whenever you're ready. And then that was the last I heard from her until 5:12 a.m.
Okay. Now you're looking at your cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if we take a look at it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And if you pull from right to left,
Yeah, it shows you the times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 12:44 about is where you say, hey,
Yeah.
and then she says come to Sidebar. Were you guys talking, was this the same night talking up here?
No, that was the day. I guess it was earlier that day, probably.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's, I'm sorry, LMK, what's that?
Oh,
Let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Why did you ask if she was okay?
Just because, she said my name and just my name, and that's not typical for her to just say Ben. Like, I want to make, and it's late, maybe she's been drinking. Want to make sure if she needs a ride or something, I can, get her home safely if I can. But I checked on her just because it's what we do for each other.
PSF.
PSF was a nickname I had for her a long time ago.
Okay. Okay. So that's basically you're referring to her.
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
Princess Stickyfoot.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just like I said, a nickname
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Why did you tell her to check your Snapchat?
Oh, I sent her a picture. And,
Picture?
Yeah.
Okay, understood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one was a hard one for me to swallow after I found out.
And you ask her, are you alive? And the index takes is sleeping, then PSF.
Yeah.
And then
Princess took you food.
Mm-hmm.
the last thing, Ben, that I'm asking that we're asking all the guys who we're interviewing who knew.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any problem giving us a buccal swab?
I'm sorry?
A buccal swab?
What's that?
It's like a DNA swab of your inside of your mouth.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
Okay.
I'm just happy to help in any way I can. Like
We
I said.
appreciate that.
We do appreciate it.
He provided his DNA, which also did not match the DNA found on Sasha, and therefore Ben was also eliminated as a suspect. Since the investigators could not locate any other footage of Sasha leaving the apartment complex or speaking with any other individuals inside the building, the next person interrogated was the security guard himself, Stephen Duxbury. Stephen's story seemed pretty on track with the footage that they had obtained. However, nearing the end of his shift, things started to become suspicious. Stephen stated that he left work at 6 a.m. However, he was still seen on surveillance at exactly 6:36 a.m. During this time, he is seen carrying 2 white garbage bags with red handles. These same garbage bags were also found in Sasha's apartment. On the first view, investigators skipped over this, as they had assumed that it may have been a part of Stephen's job to take out the trash before heading home. However, after speaking with the building manager, they were informed that Stephen was only supposed to contact the tenants regarding the garbage to ensure that it was disposed of properly. Though not admissible in court, investigators requested that Stephen take part in a polygraph test. Stephen did exactly that. They first asked Stephen some baseline questions to establish what his physiological response would be to questions that he knew his response would be truthful, and to questions that he knew his response would be a lie.
So, like I said before, instructions are very simple. Feet flat on the floor, sit straight up just like you're sitting. Relax. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, the test is about to begin. Please remain completely still and answer each question with a simple yes or no. All right? When I say that, no more moving until I tell you, okay, you now can relax. And I'll take the pressure off the cuff. Okay. All right?
They then pressed that they would be able to determine his guilt based on this test, regardless of its inadmissibility.
Definitely the polygraph is a good tool for you. You're definitely a capable reactor. I can see it. It works well. So this will be all right. Question for you, though. Yes. What is your normal heart rate? I have no idea why. Is it high? Oh, yeah. High. Yeah, I've been noticing, like, was it like 130 or 140 or something like that? Yeah, it was like 138. Yeah, that's what they were getting towards the end of my career in the military. For a resting heart rate? Mm-hmm. Yep.
The way this test is administered requires Stephen to answer a series of questions multiple times. As mentioned at the beginning of this segment, this series of questions is made up of known truth questions, which are easy to answer and generally expected to prompt a truthful response. Control questions, which are expected to prompt a deceitful response, and relevant questions, which, as the name implies, are relevant to the investigation at hand.
All right, the test is about to begin. Please remain completely still and answer each question with a simple yes or no. Do you know if Sasha was poisoned? No. Was shot with a .22? No. Was stabbed? No. Was choked? No. Was shot with a .38? No. Was hit with a hammer? No. Was hit with a chair? No. All right, the test is almost complete. Please remain completely still while I take the instrument out of operation. I do not like having this vivid imagination of what I do. What do you mean? Everything you said, I should just picture happening. Well, we don't know if it was any of them. I know, but I'm asking specifically if you know. I know. Just, I'm a security guard. Well, you know what? You can't be everywhere at once. Let's even look at it. We're being very specific here. All right, I'm sorry. It's okay. I get it, but it's very important for you to focus on the task at hand, okay?
Yes.
I'm asking you very specifically if you know something.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't.
Answer honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
That's the important thing.
Yeah.
All right, the test is about to begin. Please remain completely still and answer each question with a simple yes or no. Is your first name Stephen?
Yes.
Do you work for Vital Security?
Yes.
Did you enter Sasha's apartment that night?
No.
Do you now live in Port Orange?
Yes.
Do you know who caused Sasha's death?
No.
Before this year, did you ever threaten anyone with physical harm?
No.
Were you born in New Hampshire?
Yes.
Did you cause the death of Sasha?
No.
Did you remove any items from Sasha's apartment?
No.
Before last summer, have you ever lost control of your behavior because of your temper?
No.
All right, the test is almost complete. Please remain completely still. I take the instrument out of operation.
So, this is all over.
What we're going to do is we're going to do at least 2 more of those exact same tests, same questions, same answers, and just in case if there was any anomalies in the charts,
Mm-hmm.
I'll run an additional 1 or 2 because I basically need at least 3 good charts in order to score it properly for you.
Okay.
All right.
Everything looking good though?
Yeah. Everything's looking great. Excellent. All right. The test is about to begin. Please remain completely still and answer each question with a simple yes or no. Is your first name Stephen?
Yes.
Do you work for Vital Security?
Yes.
Did you enter Sasha's apartment that night?
No.
Do you now live in Port Orange?
Yes.
Do you know who caused Sasha's death?
No.
Before this year, did you ever threaten anyone with physical harm?
No.
Were you born in New Hampshire?
Yes.
Did you cause the death of Sasha?
No.
Did you remove any items from Sasha's apartment?
No.
Before last summer, have you ever lost control of your behavior because of your temper?
No.
All right, the test is almost complete. Please remain completely still. I take the instrument out of operation. All right, if this one all goes as planned, I think this is the last one we need to do.
Awesome.
Good to go. Yeah.
All right, let's get this going.
All right, the test is about to begin. Please remain completely still and answer each question with a simple yes or no. Is your first name Stephen?
Yes.
Do you work for Vital Security?
Yes.
Did you enter Sasha's apartment that night?
No.
Do you now live in Port Orange?
Yes.
Do you know who caused Sasha's death?
No.
Before this year, did you ever threaten anyone with physical harm?
No.
Were you born in New Hampshire?
Yes.
Did you cause the death of Sasha?
No.
Did you remove any items from Sasha's apartment?
No.
Before last summer, have you ever lost control of your behavior because of your temper?
No.
All right, the test is almost complete. Please remain completely still. I take the instrument out of operation. Actually, Stephen, you've impressed me as a pretty intelligent person here today. What I need you to do is multiply 7 times 31. I need you to hurry up about how much time?
Okay. 218.
Okay. And you can relax.
Right. So 31.7. Wow, I am bad at math.
You're only 1 off.
My wife would make so much fun of me for that.
Alright, I'm gonna get all this stuff off of you.
This part of the video is likely one of the most compelling moments in the entire case, as the man administering the test allows Stephen to point out his own lies.
Alright. You alright?
Yes. Like I said, tired.
Alright, Stephen. Oh. A hot mess of paper. So, and you don't see any of the questions on here, okay? So, looking down these questions, other than this, because I had to bring it down because you moved, what do you see that stands out to you? next to this one. So it's always number 4. Okay? And you pick that out yourself. Okay? And you're not a registered or certified polygraph examiner, right? No. Okay. Right, but we're looking for the ones that just jump out at you. The biggest changes you see. Okay. And down here. That one. Mm-hmm. And kind of, I guess, this one too. Okay. It's because it's in line and it goes up. Okay. So you're seeing that yourself, right? All right. So you said R3, R5, R8, R9. Mm-hmm. Okay. Whoa. Look at that. Something jump out of that at you? And that one, the line kind of goes up over the thing. That is good, right? Yeah. Huge, right? Mm-hmm. Jumps right out at you. Mm-hmm. Is there another one that jumps real way out there? Yeah, that one over there. Okay. Again, it goes over 1. Okay, R8. This one look bigger than this one? And bigger than that one? Yeah, a little bit, yeah. A little bit? No, I mean, yeah. I'm sorry, it's not as big as the other two. And you said R8's big? Mm-hmm. And not so much there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got R8, R5, R3. These are the numbers that you've been picking on all the charts. Okay? So now, read the question to R3. Did you enter Sasha's apartment that night? Read R5. Do you know who caused Sasha's death? R8. Did you cause the death of Sasha? And R9. Did you remove any items from Sasha's apartment? Okay. Okay. So basically what you told me, mm-hmm. Okay, I let you look at the charts. Mm-hmm. I let you tell me what jumped out of the screen, off the charts at you. Yeah. Correct? Yep. Right. So we are of the same opinion that the only thing that really seems to be bothering you on this test is these relevant questions that pertain to the situation that we're here dealing with. Mm-hmm. You need to be honest about it because this is saying you know something, mm-hmm. and that something happened. Now, let me show you another thing. One more thing. What's that say? Significant reactions. Probably this result was produced by a truthful person. 0.003% chance that the result was produced by a truthful person. Damn. 0.003% chance that you were truthful on this test today. So not only did I have another polygraph examiner look at this, because what I did was I scored it and he scored it, and then we compared the scores, and they were identical. And now you have this also. So how do we get past that? That's the issue. I don't know. Hey, Dr. David, how you doing? Pretty good. Thanks. I was just showing you, this is the computer scoring the charts. Yeah. 0.003% chance that the results were produced by a truthful person. So that's basically 99.7% chance that he's being deceitful. Okay. So, now I'll let you guys talk. Are you okay, Steve? Well, not anymore, based on what this thing is telling me. Steve, I've been doing this for a while. And I really don't think you're a bad person. I really don't. But sometimes good people do bad things. Listen to you. I will tell you this. I'm not saying Sasha was a bad person. But she was very flirtatious. Very. She wasn't flirting with me. I mean, other than, leaning against me in the hallway because she could barely stand. But she wasn't flirting with me. She never asked you to come inside the apartment? No. If she had asked me to come inside the apartment, I would have told her no. What garbage did you take out that day? Some trash I found on the way out after I turned in that report.
Where did you find it?
It was on the second floor.
On the second floor? From what apartment?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Where was your car parked?
On the second floor.
Okay. We have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't report that, did you?
No, it was already after my shift was over.
But it's still a violation, right?
Now you guys are basically accusing me of doing something.
No, sir. We're just trying to understand why we're getting the reaction we're getting. Okay, that's it. Because we have to explain that.
It's on video where you're chasing her at one point. That's because she thought she'd be funny and started running off.
Stephen, I have an issue with something else too. I'm going to tell you. And I have an issue with something. We've been doing this for a long time. And everybody that we've spoken to about this case has asked us several questions. What happened? How? When? You've never asked any of it.
No.
I don't understand.
I don't want to know.
Why not?
Because I don't want to find out if something happened on my shift that I could have prevented had I been around. And then that's going to eat away at me for the rest of my life.
What would that indicate for you? Possibly.
Someone who doesn't care.
Somebody knows.
And you think I know. She didn't invite me into her apartment. And if we're going to continue on this line of discussion, I think we're done here for now. And I'm going to go home, I'm going to take a nap, and I'm going to go to work. If you guys want to talk to me again some other time, we'll have a lawyer involved. Because at this point, I don't feel comfortable talking with you detectives.
Something interesting to note is that law enforcement had not yet released Sasha's cause of death publicly yet. However, during Stephen's polygraph test, the needle also spiked when he asked if Sasha was choked. Stephen was allowed to leave following this interview, while investigators continued to build their case. He eventually was arrested and charged based on the following evidence. Officers had taken pictures of Stephen's arms on the morning after Sasha was found deceased. In these pictures, he had scratches that appeared as though they were from fingernails. Officers also searched Stephen's home, and they found a shoe that appeared to perfectly match the shoe print found at the crime scene. Stephen's fingerprints came back to match the prints on Sasha's toilet seat, and Stephen's DNA came back to match the DNA found on Sasha's body. The surveillance footage making it fairly clear that Sasha's last interactions were with Stephen and Stephen's Google search history from early Saturday morning. Stephen searched how to defeat a digital lock. Stephen was charged with first-degree murder, attempted sexual battery with physical force, and burglary of a dwelling with assault and battery. Stephen's trial began 2 years later, on November 14th, 2017.
Stephen Duxbury's lawyers want the jury to believe some mystery man came into Sasha Samsudean's apartment 2 years ago and killed her. Good evening, I'm Greg Warmith.
And I'm Martha Sagowski, and that means asking a jury to look past DNA and fingerprint evidence that investigators say placed Duxbury inside Sasha Samsudean's apartment. Channel 9's Field Sutton has watched every minute of the testimony, and Field, the opening statements revealed a lot about this case.
And prosecutors went first. They gave that long list of scientific evidence you were just talking about, but the defense went after that, essentially asking the jury to believe that Orlando police missed the real killer in a rush to judgment. Late this afternoon, Stephen Duxbury's lawyer accused Orlando police of botching the investigation into who raped and murdered Sasha Samsudean 2 years ago.
If you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. These officers immediately seized on Mr. Duxbury as a suspect.
In the face of fingerprints on the nightstand and toilet and Duxbury's DNA on the sheets, the defense raised questions about the victim.
She never explicitly took a guy home from the bar in front of me. She never did that.
Well, how would you know?
Samsudean's ex-suitors and lovers took the stand, taking questions on cross-examination based on the theory that they should have been suspects too.
Did they take any buccal swabs inside your mouth?
No, sir.
Check for your DNA?
No, sir.
Did they roll your footprints, sir, to see if you had matching footprints going in that apartment?
No, sir.
Did they take your fingerprints, sir?
No, sir.
One of Samsudean's best friends described the moment his worst fears came true.
Officer came downstairs and 2 or 3 of us just shook his head, informing us that she was passed.
Still, 2 years later, he says he can't believe the young woman's life ended with a murder trial.
I mean, I was pacing up and down the sidewalks crying. You know, all of us were trying to console each other because it was a shock.
After a long and grueling trial, based mainly on circumstantial evidence and very limited physical evidence, the jury came back with their verdict.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have been told that we have a verdict in this case. I do want to remind everyone that I recognize that this case is highly emotionally charged on both sides. I also recognize that this jury has spent 7 days with us and has worked very hard to render whatever verdict it is that they are rendering. Whether it is a verdict with which you agree or not, please know that I will not tolerate any emotional outbursts during the reading of the jury's verdict or while the jury is present. If you do not believe that you can control yourself, you need to excuse yourself from the courtroom at this time. And we will remain seated when the jury comes in. Let's bring the jury in. The verdicts are in proper form and read as follows. In the Circuit Court of the 9th Judicial Circuit, NM4, Orange County, Florida, case number 48-2015 CF 14380, Division 14, State of Florida Plaintiff versus Stephen Michael Duxbury, defendant. Verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment, and the killing was premeditated murder and felony murder. Verdict is to count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of attempted sexual battery with physical force as charged in the indictment. Verdict is to count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of burglary of a dwelling with an assault or battery as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 21st day of November 2017, signed by the foreperson.
Stephen Duxbury was sentenced to 2 life sentences for first-degree murder and rape, and an additional 15 years for burglary. He was once a man who vowed to protect the people and the facility in which he was employed, but now he is behind bars in order to protect those same people from him.